All right, John Carpenter, tier list, here we go. I'm not gonna waste your time giving you a preamble about who John Carpenter is. If you clicked on this video, you probably already know that, so we're just gonna get right into it. But a couple things about the tier list and how it's gonna work. I'm tiering these out based on the scores of the movies, not the movies themselves. Although, for me personally, there's a little bit of a correlation anyway between how much I like the movie and how much I like the score, but we'll talk about those when we get to it. I'm only doing the movies that he both directed and did the score for, none where he just did the score, and none where he did the score for a movie he didn't direct. I'm not doing any TV movies, and I'm not doing any sequels. That just seems redundant to do like 9 Halloween sequels, so I'm not going to worry about it. We're just going to do the original. Here we go. So starting off with 1974's Dark Star. I don't think this is actually a bad score, given it's his first, but you can definitely tell his influences. You can tell he was just sitting at home listening to like Tangerine Dream on a loop for days while he wrote this. And while it's not terrible for a first score, he would go on to do way better things, such as the next movie, Assault on Precinct 13. Honestly, a pretty big improvement, and I like how percussive this score is. All these hi-hats and snares and whatnot just have like the absolute harshest like whip effect on everything. I mean, it's just like so crazy in your face. I don't know how he did it, if he just added like a whole ton of spring reverb on all these, but I don't know, they sound awesome, and the synth parts on here are by far much better sounding and also just a little bit catchier, a little bit peppier. Overall, huge improvement in only a 2-year span here, so good stuff. We're moving on up. This is going to go into the B tier. And that brings us very quickly to Halloween. What do I even need to say about the score? Obviously, it's perfect, it's iconic, it's everything a score should be. It's honestly, okay, first of all, let's just go ahead and get it out of the way. We're putting this in the S tier, obviously, and then I'll do a little rant about it. I mean, it's just so good. It's one of the most iconic scores, period, horror or otherwise. I mean, how many other scores can people not only recognize from horror films, but be able to tell you they know what movie it's from? I mean, for horror films, that's pretty rare. I mean, Psycho, I guess, probably, just because it's been, like, parodied so many times. It is just in the cultural consciousness. Like, people know where that's from. And then, I don't know. I can't... I guess Jaws, too. Specifically the second one, of course. But yeah, it's a perfect score. I mean, the main theme obviously is iconic. The way it just like descends keys as it goes through, incredible. I love, I'm probably reading a little bit deeper into this than John Carpenter himself probably did, but I love how it's got the acoustic piano kind of representing the natural side that Michael Myers is human, but it's also got these kind of electronic drums behind it with just this like pulsing 16th note hi-hat kind of representing like the machine like evil side of Michael Myers. It's just great, such a great dichotomy to the music, which represents the character so well. It also has some really it also just has some really pretty themes all the way through, with, Laurie's theme being just this really pretty autumnal piano piece. Overall, I mean, it's a perfect score. I'm not going to go too much more into it because I'm sure everyone has said these things for 50 years. So yeah, perfect score, iconic, it's S tier, in or outside of horror films. Anyway, moving on into the 80s, we got The Fog. I think this one is also a pretty good score. I like the key changes within the main kind of piano part. I like that we're not fully into like 100% on board with the synths yet. We're still sticking with some piano here. I think with the key changes and some of the other lighter synth instrumentation, it does a great job of just adding to that air of mystery of like what's in the fog. Overall, pretty good score. We're going to put this one up in the A tier. All right, Escape from New York. I think this is kind of a milestone score within all of his scores because this feels like the definitive John Carpenter score. While Halloween is the more iconic one and for sure overall the better score, this is where John Carpenter kind of became like his fully evolved form. You've got like all of the iconic synths that he would stick with through the 80s. He's using a little bit of guitar on here, which kind of foreshadows the heavy metal stuff that he would be doing by the end of the decade, I suppose. Really, just this is just kind of where it all comes together for him as a composer. I just love the synths all the way through this one. It's just got that classic, not only 80s sound, but specifically John Carpenter sound. And this is kind of really where it all started. I'm going to put this up in the A tier also, but even higher than The Fog. All right, Christine. Yet another A tier, 3 in a row. This one is actually, I think, an underrated one. I think this movie's gotten a lot more love over the years, but I still don't hear a lot of people talking about the score. The main theme for this one, I think, is one of the best themes he ever came up with. It is just like so good, and it fits the movie so well. he always just has a knack for making all of his synths work, even in the context of like this 1950s era car. Maybe not quite as good as Escape from New York. We'll just put it right up there above The Fog. Big Trouble in Little China. I think it's an underrated film within his filmography. It's so fun. If you've only stuck with John Carpenter because of his horror movies and haven't ventured into some of his other stuff, while I can't speak for everything, this one at least is a fun one. This is more of like a fantasy sci-fi kind of movie. Really fun, very fast-paced, aided expertly by the music, which is just like so peppy and so fun, and he takes some like hard rock and some blues with his classic synth sound and a little bit of an Eastern influence in here because it is Big Trouble in Little China. And overall, this is, I think, his most fun score. I mean, it's just going all the way through. It's a really good time, as is the movie. This is also an A-tier score, and I'm actually gonna even put this one higher than Christine. There we go. All right, here we go. Prince of Darkness. I'm so sorry. I am about to do the pretentious, like, film student, music student kind of thing, and I hate generally when people say this, but the score in this movie is kind of like a character in itself. Or at the very least, it's there as the audience's way of understanding the presence of the Antichrist in this movie, because the characters are just in this church with this just constant sense of gloom and dread. And this score is basically omnipresent in the movie. It is just there the whole time. There's very few moments in this movie that don't have some kind of sound going on. And the score overall kind of stands out within his own, discography, so to speak, within his own set of scores, in that it's very choral. It still uses synths, but it's got a choral palette as opposed to his usual synths. And it's also very ambient, which kind of ramps it up towards the end. Overall though, underrated movie, vastly underrated score. I think it's one of his best just in the way that it takes the thematic elements of the movie and puts them into the score. So good. This one's going in the S tier. Also, side note, Alice Cooper is in the movie, and he wrote a song for the movie, which is in the end credits, which is kind of fun. And unfortunately, with that, we've kind of reached the end of John Carpenter's iconic scores, or at least what I would consider his best scores, because we get to They Live, which is a good movie. It's got some really iconic scenes, and overall, I really enjoy it, but the score is such a slog for this. It just does that one, like, very mid-tempo synth bass blues riff all the way through the movie. That's like the only main thing going on throughout the score, and it's just so boring and so repetitive. It really drives me insane. And so as far as just a listening experience to the score, to the soundtrack, I never put this one on because it drives me insane. So this one's going in D. Good movie. I would put the movie higher itself, but just the score, I don't think it's very good. Then we get to In the Mouth of Madness. Now we're like fully into his heavy metal phase. We're getting rid of a lot of the synthesizers. We're going full like Metallica mode here. And I think for the most part, it works out pretty well. Of his more heavy metal oriented scores, this is by far the best. So we're gonna put this one up in B. All right, moving on to Village of the Damned. Did you remember that this movie existed? Because I did not until I was looking up the movies, and I did then vaguely remember watching this years ago, and I revisited the score, and just like the movie, it's forgettable. There's not one like memorable thing about it. You can tell with the movie and the score just all around, he was probably just doing this one for the paycheck. There's just like no soul in this one at all. So it's going in the F tier. Next up, Vampires. This one is again more in his like heavy metal style, but it's like with some blues country, and there's some synth stuff later on too, but kind of the main theme is like all this bluesy, folky country rock, and I think it's pretty cheesy. It's kind of a cheesy movie, as are a lot of his movies, but I just can't really get into the country rock vibe on this one, so we'll put this one in C. And that leaves us with Ghosts of Mars, which is a notoriously bad movie. I've never really heard anyone mention the score before, so I assume most people will think it's bad because it is, but I've never really heard anyone talk about it. It does, again, a lot of the heavy metal stuff. It just sounds so dated though by this point in 2001, and he's also using these like electronic drums that sound like they would have been in club hits like a decade earlier and already sound very dated. And then on top of that, he just has like these out of nowhere 80s like blues metal style solos, which it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't sound good, but even still, it's more memorable than Village of the Damned. So we're gonna put this one in E. there we go. That's my John Carpenter score tier list. Let me know what scores are your favorite or your least favorite. What movies are your favorite or least favorite? Let me know in the comments. Leave a like, subscribe so we can start sharing some music, and I hope to hear from you soon.